Hi there, welcome to this debrief video to build communication and motivation intelligence. We're going to go through your assessment report. My name is Suzie Price, and I'll be your facilitator, and I'm so glad that you have completed an assessment and that my company is able to work with you and your company, and we're going to go through in a short period of time how to read your assessment results. So first I want to kick it off with what's being measured. You either in your report have two views or two sciences or three sciences, and I use a car analogy to represent each one of these sciences. You'll notice that I call them views. Well, each science is measuring a different aspect or a different view of how you answer the questions and what the assessment said according to how you answered the questions. So here is the car analogy and the three views. The first is the Workplace Motivators Assessment, and using the car analogy, it's what puts gas in your tank. So it's not something other people can see. You don't see the gas, but it is what makes the car run. And with the Workplace Motivators Assessment, what we do is look at your top two and your number six. So your top two are what give you energy, and the number six one is the one you scored the lowest, and that's the one that you try to avoid. So we're going to touch base on all of those today. The second assessment or view that we're going to go through is the DISC behavioral style assessment, and that is how you communicate, and it is what people see. And I use cars or types of vehicles to kind of demonstrate what people might see, the bulldozer, the all-terrain vehicle, and it's just some descriptors of your behaviors and how people may interpret or read or perceive you and how you communicate. So it's what and how you tend to drive. The third assessment you may or may not have. If you took the Talent Insights assessment, you'll just have the top two. If you took the TriMetrixHD or TriMetrix EQ, which is for emotional intelligence, the third assessment in those measures what's under the hood. It's not seen or visible by others, but it does drive the vehicle and drive your performance. And it is something that you can improve, you can tweak, you can increase the horsepower by changing and growing different aspects in the TriMetrix HD, the Acumen part, or in your emotional intelligence. And with the motivators and the style, what fills your tank and what you tend to drive, we don't try to change those. Those are things we came in with. They're our natural strengths. What we try to do there is just understand what they are so that we can leverage our strengths and then cover any blind spots if we tend to do too much of something that we like to do or that we're naturally good at. So we're not trying to change your motivators or your style. We're just wanting to understand that so we can better manage ourselves. And then under the hood part, if you want, if there's more horsepower you want to get, and per the results you see an area that you want to improve upon, either by the acumen, how you think and make decisions, or by the emotional quotient piece, which is how you handle emotions and read other people, then the third assessment you can use that to grow and strength and power in that area. Now, these assessments do not take into account your background or experience, and in the car analogy, I call that roads traveled, and it doesn't account for where you want to go, because that if what you want to do really matches what you're doing, it will drive performance. So it doesn't count any of that. It also doesn't take into account what's happening on the team. And in the car analogy, I talk about where your car is parked. So we're not covering any of that in regard to performance and your background, your skills, your experience. We're not talking about the team that you're on or the company you're in. Those areas can also impact performance and strength and cause some blind spots or gap areas. So what we're looking at in the assessment is either these two views or three views. So let's go into the first one, which is your motivators. Again, it's what fills your tank. It's not visible. It's very powerful, though, and I like to cover this area first, even though it's second in your assessment results. It's why you do what you do. It's things that you are compelled to do naturally. It's your personal interests. It's your personal values, and there's no right or wrong. It is basically just how you answer the assessment, and based on that science, here's what drives you and what fills your tank. So let's go through that. There are 6 workplace motivators, and your top 2 fill your tank. And I'm just going to go quickly through the names of them. There's the theoretical, which is about learning. Utilitarian, the business person. Aesthetic is about balance and harmonious surroundings. Social altruistic is about the altruistic part. Individualistic political is the power player. Traditional regulatory is process and order. So you're going to have two of these that scored the highest, and those two, according to the assessment, are what gives you the most energy and interest. And so it's very smart to know your motivators so that you can do more of them. It will fill up your gas tank, and you can understand differences that you have with people. Often it's more at this level. Someone else values something that you don't. And so that can help you understand their perspective better and can make you more emotionally intelligent, and also for your own build your own self-awareness. So let's go through them by having you go get your report, and approximately on page 36 will be the results. So I want you to, or a graph that looks like this. So I want you to go to that page. It's approximately page 36. It may be a different page on yours because each report is tailored to each person, so all the pages don't exactly line up. What you're looking for is your top two, and you'll see the numbers at the bottom. You'll see the abbreviations for the 6 motivators that I just quickly went through, and I have circled my first and second. I want you to go and look for your first and second, and also look for your 6th. What you'll see is how strong it is based on the national mean. The national mean is of all the population that have taken this assessment, this is their mean, 68% where they scored. So you can see, for me, my theoretical is really a strong motivator because I'm far above population mean. That's not good or bad, as none of these answers are good or bad. They just are, and it's just insight around what fills your tank and what you individually said based on your answers that you need to be motivated and feel rewarded on the job. Notice your 6th one, too. Make a note of that. And so my 6 is the traditional regulatory. So make a note of what your 6th motivator is. Now let's go through them a little bit. There's a memory jogger card on the self-study tools page that you've accessed. If you go to the motivators section, the very first link is like a flashcard. On one side is the 6 motivators, and on the back is some more information about each one of the motivators. So it's a good cheat sheet for this information, but let's go through this quickly. The theoretical knowledge is the learner, and we would also say intellectual, and you see Einstein is an example. Professors, journalists can also be an example. They doesn't mean you need to be a professor or a journalist, but it might mean that you naturally bring that kind of skill set or interest to the job. You are a receptacle for information. You have a passion for knowledge, and a stressor for you might be the inability to learn and discover. The business person. This is the high utilitarian economic. We call it someone who's very resourceful. It's a passion for making money and getting results. We often see the high utilitarian economic as the top motivator in sales positions, in business owners like Richard Branson. We see investors. Executives are often high utilitarian, and it is a drive for business, a drive for economic return, making sure we get return on investment, and a stressor. One of the top stressors for someone who's high utilitarian economic is if people are wasting resources and of time, money, and if they're not being efficient. Aesthetic. Aesthetic is the balance seeker. Harmonious. It's a passion for creativity, harmony, and beauty. It's a talent for bringing harmony and balance into their surroundings. Some well-known examples would be Walt Disney, who you see here, architects, designers, and the stressor for a high aesthetic is a chaotic environment, a lack of balance in their life, personally and professionally. Social altruistic, this is the service and helping others motivator. And the way I would focus on that, if I was you, is say call it altruistic. Don't get caught up in the social part. This is about being of service. And it is someone who instinctively notices and responds to people in need. It's a passion for removing pain in the world. We've got Mother Teresa as an example, Princess Diana, counselors, sometimes teachers, sometimes coaches. And a stressor for this motivator will be an over-focus on the bottom line and when they're not focusing enough on the needs of the people. Individualistic political, that's the power player. We call that the commander. So this is someone who's willing to be out front. It's a passion for leading. It's willing to work long and hard to advance your position. It's usually a really good networker, can have a lot of charisma in front of groups, and some famous people would be John F. Kennedy, some politicians, professional speakers, entrepreneurs. It's this willingness to be out front, willingness to think outside the box, and you see the individualistic political part of that. A stressor for someone who scored really high in individualistic political is the inability to advance. Last but not least, our sixth motivator, traditional regulatory. This is our process and order keeper. The other word we might use is principled, and this is a passion for keeping and enforcing the rules. So knowing what the policies are, knowing what the procedures are, and keeping them. They're the SOP queen, standard operating procedure queen or king. And we have examples, could be a hall monitor. Hey, these are the rules, don't run. Judges, military, ministers, because there's a set of rules or processes, and it's a position or an interest in making sure that everyone follows and keeps those processes. The stressor for a high traditional regulatory could be lack of direction and order, people not following the rules and processes. So those are our six motivators. And what I want to do now is show you another page in your assessment. This is at the top of it. It'll say Motivators, Norms, and Comparisons. It's approximately on page 33. You see the six motivators on the left. The star is where you scored. The blue, or it might be a red bar on your assessment, is measuring 68% of the population. So this is mine, theoretical, utilitarian. Those are my top two drivers. It's just another data point to see. It's another graph to see where you scored. Also important to me is individualistic. Look at anything you have that's above the mean and strong. And you want to note anything that scores extreme or passion on the right-hand side, and it just tells you you're above the population mean, and that means it's not good, it's not bad. It just tells you the way you scored the assessment is an indication that that area is very important to you and different from a lot of other people who scored it as a lower priority. Look at your sixth one. For me, traditional regulatory, I scored very low, as that's a low interest for me. Brain research tells us that we want to go towards what we're naturally interested in. That's your top two. And we spend a lot of time avoiding what we scored as I don't want to do that. And so I want you to take note of your number 6 and go look in the self-study tools page, and I believe it's the link right below the Motivators memory jogger card in the Motivators section, and it's just a few descriptors around number 6 and what that means. So you can think of, if it's whatever your number 6 is, think of it as the opposite of what the descriptor was for the high, and use that little cheat sheet on the self-study tools page to understand that that's also a driver, because you're going to work to avoid that. And if we have a coaching call and you have questions about that, let me know, and we'll go into that a little bit more. Please note that all of these motivators add value in this world, of the assessment world. What fills your gas tank is as important. What fills your gas tank is important as to what fills everybody else's gas tank. It's more about you understanding it so that you can drive your own motivation, your own persistence. And the way you can use this assessment is to think about, your top 2 and maybe your number 6. How is it reflected in your professional life? Are you using it? Are you able to take time in your personal life to do more of that? Are there people in your life or activities that are hindering getting what you want? According to the assessment, your top motivators, personally or professionally. And then who can help you get more of this, or what kind of activities can help you do more of this? I know as soon as I figured out what my top motivators are, I just oriented my life around them and make decisions based on them, and it has really helped me be more successful and more happy, and I'm running around with a full gas tank more often, understanding what my own motivators are, and then understanding when other people's motivators or drivers are different, how to embrace that and work with that as opposed to judge it. Lots of power in this assessment. What we just went through is what fills your gas tank and gave you kind of a preview or a very quick way to read and understand your assessment results. Now let's go to the other assessment in the second view, which is the DISC behavioral style assessment, what and how you tend to drive. This is a very popular assessment. It's how people may describe your style. They probably aren't going to be able to read your motivators because that's not visible, but they will be able to probably guess your style for a lot of people. There are 4 styles. That's why we call it the DISC assessment, D-I-S-C. It is just the surface. It isn't all these other things, what fills your tank, what your horsepower is, what your background and experience is. It's just how you communicate. And it's smart to know this. That's why we call it communication and motivation intelligence, because we can leverage our strengths when we know what our style is and how we scored, and we can catch our blind spots, and we can move towards other people whose style, needs, and interests are different from our own. And so instead of doing unto others as we would have them do, we do unto others, communicate with others in a way that helps them. And it makes us a better communicator, helps you be able to build better rapport, work with different people, understand people better. And both of these assessments actually help you with less judgment when people are different. It really is, in my view, it's really helped me around managing diversity and understanding the different strengths when they're different from my own. So that's why I hope is helpful to you in that way. So the DISC style is what and how you tend to drive, and I not only use the car analogy to describe the whole assessment, I use the car analogy to describe each one of the styles. So let's go through that now. There are 4 styles: dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance. Now, there is also a memory jogger card on the self-study tools page that describes these in more detail. I'm going to click through them very quickly just to move through the assessment, but what I'd love for you to do is go get that memory jogger card, which again is like a flashcard. On one side are descriptors of each style. When someone is strong in that style, or it's high for them, and on the back are tips on how to communicate with each different style. You know, what do they want? How might they behave under stress or in conflict? So we've got dominance. The vehicle that we use with that is a bulldozer. They tend to go fast, and the strength is they get stuff done. The blind spot might be, well, I might blow some people over or bowl some people over or bulldoze some people over. The high influences, the all-terrain vehicle. So think about an all-terrain vehicle. They can go in a lot of directions real quickly, and they move fast as well. It is animated, upbeat, kind of the party. You'll see all those descriptors there. The steadiness is now we're moving to the gondola as their favorite vehicle. Think of a gondola. What is that? It's very calm. It's very peaceful. It's helpful to people. People enjoy it. Agreeable, cautious, not fast-moving. And then last but not least, high compliance. That's your train. Think about a train. It goes from point A to point B. There is no question of what direction it is. It's a logical schedule, and it is on task. So those are the 4 styles, and I'm going to give you a quick picture of some people who are famous that demonstrate their style. Now, granted, when you look at this, I want you to understand I'm not saying you are this. What I'm saying is these are some people that demonstrate this style, because we can manage our style, and you may or may not be doing some of the strengths or the blind spots of these people, but these are people who are very strong in their style, so they paint a good picture. So for the bulldozer, we got Kanye, we got Judge Judy. You can think about how they express and how they communicate, really direct, really blunt, forceful. We got the all-terrain vehicle. We got Ellen, Jimmy Fallon. See the smiles, expressive, fun. We're going to dance. We're going to dialogue. We're going to be about people. High steadiness is our gondola people, Nicole Kidman, Andy Griffith from the Mayberry series. Easygoing, amiable, steady, calm, peacemaker often. High compliance, we got Spock, we got Condoleezza Rice, some minimal facial expressions, pretty much focused on there's point A to point B, and we're working with logic and a schedule. So there is the high D, I, and C, a quick summary. Make sure you grab that memory jogger card. Let's go to your report so you can see where you might have landed on the assessment. It's pages 21 or 22. You'll see a graph that looks like this. You want to pay attention first to your natural graph. And so that natural graph is how you have probably been most all of your life. It is under stress, you go to your natural style, because we can adapt and move our style, but we get under stress, we go to what we know. And generally we say these styles have been created, or how we communicate, we came in with that, and it's probably set by the time we were 6 years old. And you'll see on the side there numbers 0 to 100, and you'll see 50. Anything above 50 would indicate that you own some of those traits. As you communicate, you have some of those traits. And then you see the D, I, S, and C across the top, and you'll just see, so this person, and this is actually mine, high D, high I, and then I have less of the steadiness, that's lower, and less of the C, almost no C. And so you want to look at what are your top styles. So how would people probably describe you? For me, it's use a lot of the descriptors of the I and the D, and because it's very strong for me, which isn't good or bad, it's more of a factor of how well do I use it. So there's no right style. It's about how do you manage your style, and how aware are you of how you impact others, and how aware are you of others. So the higher it is, the stronger the tendency is, and the stronger it is for people to be able to read your style. And the more you probably have to work to manage it. I definitely have to work to manage my style. So there's your natural style. Remember, this is usually, if you retake the assessment, this will come up the same every time, because it's pretty much, that's why we call it the natural style. Under stress, you're going to do your natural style, so it's very smart to know what it is. And ideally, you'd be able to use your natural strengths on the job throughout the day to succeed, because it is natural. It's your normal strengths. The adapted style changes every time we take the assessment, and that's the graph on the left. And it's an indication or a snapshot of when you took the assessment, how you're changing your style to meet work demands. And you want to look at what's going up and what's going down, and note anything that has a 10-point difference. If we use me as an example, what's going down? The D is going down by a lot, and the S is going down by more than 10. So for you, compare. You see those numbers across the bottom of each graph. On my right there, natural style 100, 100, 25, 4. Look at the adapted 57, 96, 8. I think that's a 6. Look at the numbers on the bottom there. See anything that goes up or down 10 points, and that's a snapshot of how you're adapting your style or not adapting your style on the job. And there is no right or wrong answer here. It's more about, you want to say, is it working? And so first off, what you can do is when you can pause this when you figure out what's moving up or what's moving down, and make a note as to how, according to the assessment, you are adapting your style right now. When I took this particular view of my assessment, at the time I was moving down the D, being less assertive and challenge-oriented, and I was speeding up my activity level. And that was key insight for me, because I actually was stressed out. Now, just because you're moving things up or down does not mean you are stressed. It's more of a question to ask yourself, and in my case, it was causing me some tension. Here are the questions that you need to ask yourself about adapting. If you are adapting, and actually the headline up there should say, if you're adapting or not adapting. There is no right or wrong, but what you want to say is it working? So if you're not adapting, do you need to? Are there things that you need to be doing a little bit different on the job to make sure it's a success? And according to your desire, if the job's a fit for you and you have enough horsepower, it's easier to adapt the stronger your horsepower is, that stuff under the hood that I talked about, your EQ and your acumen. You can also ask yourself, is it stressful? I mentioned that my adapting was causing me some stress. It was a good insight because I was not using one of my strengths, which is my high D. I had no idea that I had that as a strength. So ask yourself those questions around adapting. The next time you take the assessment, your adapting graph could change. Just depends on what's happening in your job. The other thought I want to mention about adapting is there is in-the-moment adapting, and that's how you want to end up eventually using this information in the DISC assessment. I'm going to email adapt, so I know that so-and-so is this style, so I'm going to not communicate them via email the way I like. I'm going to give them what they need. If I'm in a meeting, I'm going to adapt my style based on what's happening in the room. That's always a work in progress for me, but as probably for all of us. But that is, there's the work adapting that we see in the assessment, and there's day-to-day, in and out, different conversations with clients, with coworkers, with family members, adapting your style and moving towards what they need. I want you to understand your wheel. There's a disc wheel, and you'll see there's 4 quadrants. Again, there's your D, I, S, and C around the corner. And what it's telling you is we're usually have more than one thing above the line, and it's showing you where it showed up. So if I was going to capture my name, my circle there, I'm a persuader. So my style is a combination of the D and the I. And then I'm adapting. I'm doing less of the D, so I'm doing the star, promoter. Where did you land? The further out you are, that means that you scored real strong and your tendencies are real strong. Further in you are, you scored more at the mean, or you had several things above the energy line. And what I have seen is if you're closer to the inner circle, it's a little bit easier to adapt because you have some. So like if I was at 58, I would have a little C in me, and I'd have a little more, not such a strong dominant D. So it'd be easier to adapt. Again, not good or bad, it's just insight. Also, what I want you to do is look at who's across from you. So the D across from the S, there's where you can have the most tension, and it can be where you have the most synergy. And the reason being is your persuader across from the coordinator, promoter across from the analyzer. Each person's strengths balance out the other's blind spots. Each person's strengths that's right across from you are very different from yours, so there can be some judgment or misunderstanding. And if we're not adapting and we don't have awareness of the goodness of the differences, there can be stress. But the goal is for everybody to learn to appreciate the strengths that different people bring to the table and to help each other out and work together. If I'm working with your team, we've probably plotted your team on a wheel like this and had some of those discussions. So that is the DISC wheel. So we have talked about motivators, and we've talked about style, how you tend to drive. Now there's another part of the assessment. If you took the Talent Insights, TriMetrixHD or TriMetrix EQ, where it combines your style and your motivation, giving you more communication and motivation intelligence. It's bullet points. It's very much tailored to you because it's specific statements that are tied to where you scored, and you're going to see strengths, conflict, ideal environment, managing, and motivating. It starts at approximately page 38, and there's a page for each. This is a powerful tool. What I would suggest you at least highlight 1, maybe 3 of your top areas that mean the most to you right now, and use that as part of your development plan. Have a discussion with your manager, meet with a coworker, and we can also do a talent comparison, which compares your assessment next to somebody else's, and you two can talk through this area. This is a power piece of the tool because it really does give you insights on how you can leverage your strengths and some of your blind spots and more. So we've talked about each part. Let's go very quickly into the Acumen or EQ. It's under the hood. It's horsepower. It's changeable. The EQ assessment, what starts on page 45, is talking about your emotional intelligence, and it's giving you a score based on the 5 emotional quotient areas. And what you'll see is your score, like if you look at self-awareness, it's a 9. The population mean score is at a 7.4, and that red is the mean, and the population scored within the red area. So that gives you some insights on how you scored, where your strengths are, and where development opportunities could be. If you go to the Self-Study Tools page, I have tools for you to help you understand and debrief the EQ assessment. The Acumen Assessment is measuring how you think and make decisions, and it's giving you a snapshot of your personal skills, and there's a lot of other information in there. On that assessment, TriMetrixHD, you'll see it on page 58, and then what you're looking at is strength of skills. What you want to look at is what your top 7 are, because those are your greatest strengths. And you also want to be looking at what are the top 7 for my job. Most jobs require mastery of 7 of these skills. All of these skills are nice and good, but most jobs require just 7 of mastery in 7. So you want to, hopefully we've done a benchmark for your position. If we have not, talk to your manager and figure out of this list what are the 7 that are most important, and then see where you scored compared to the job. If we did do a benchmark, we'll be able to compare your assessment to that and create a gap report. So we have covered what fills your tank, how you drive, what's under the hood. Hopefully you will use the self-paced resources there. There's benchmarks if this is with your company, and we did a benchmark for the TriMetrixHD. There's a place for you to create a development plan worksheet, and it gives you a place there where you can track information, activities that you take. It gives you more insight about each one of the motivators and style attributes. There's university tutorials for exercises. There are videos. There are memory jogger cards. I have a podcast. I have recommended reading. And if you're doing coaching with me, there's a coaching call prep form that you can complete there. So that is a quick reference about your assessments. I hope it's helpful. Please reach out to me. There's my email. There's my phone number. Let's connect if you have questions, and we'll get together and go through that. So all the best to you. Thank you.